Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to the Emerging Technologies Combined Task Force Change of Directorship Ceremony. I am Lieutenant Ed Buster, and I am honored to serve as Master of Ceremonies for today's event. Today you will witness Lieutenant Colonel Adam L. Brooks assume directorship of the Emerging Technologies Combined Task Force. The presiding officer for today's ceremony is the 412th Operations Group Commander, Colonel Timothy J. Spaulding. For the purposes of military protocol, this is considered an indoor ceremony. Military members should stand at attention during the national anthem and should not salute. We invite our civilian guests to participate by standing and placing their right hands over their hearts. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome our military and civilian distinguished guests in attendance today. We ask that you please hold your applause until everyone has been introduced. We would like to extend a warm welcome to our presiding official's spouse, Mrs. Dory Spaulding, and their children, Oliver and Charlotte. Although they couldn't be here today, a warm welcome to Lieutenant Colonel Bryce's spouse, Mrs. Jocelyn Bryce, and their daughter, Kalia. We would also like to extend a warm welcome to Lieutenant Colonel Brooks' spouse, Mr. Brad Hills, and the rest of his family. We are excited to have you be a part of the Emerging Technologies family. We also recognize and welcome our Edwards Air Force Base senior leadership in attendance. From the 412th Test Wing, Brigadier General Matthew W. Heiger, Commander, and Mr. Dan W. Osborne, Technical Director. Welcome to all the group and squadron commanders that are in attendance today. We welcome all colleagues, friends, and coworkers who have come to pay special tribute to Lieutenant Colonel Bryce and Lieutenant Colonel Brooks. We thank you for attending, ladies and gentlemen. Please join us in a round of applause for all of our distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and the playing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that a flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the invocation provided by Chaplain Tyler Harris.
I invite you all to bow your heads and pray with me. Lord in heaven, we give you thanks and praise today as we recognize the excellence and mission accomplishments achieved by the Emerging Technologies Combined Task Force under the leadership and guidance of Lieutenant Colonel Travis Bryce. His dedication to the mission and his fellow airmen and civilian co-workers will continue to be an inspiration and provide a lasting impact that will be felt long after his departure. To his wife, Jocelyn, and their daughter, Kalia, we thank them, Lord, for their sacrifices that they have made during their time at Edwards Air Force Base, and we pray for their health and their well-being. As Lieutenant Colonel Bryce and his family move on to Eglin Air Force Base, give them your protection and blessing, Lord, to successfully navigate the challenges and opportunities ahead of them. Assure them, Lord, that they will have our love and heartfelt gratitude as they depart. Though our hearts will be saddened by this loss, we are grateful and excited in welcoming our new director, Lieutenant Colonel Adam Brooks, his spouse Brad, and their loved ones to our Edwards family. May their time here with us be memorable and fruitful. Finally, we pray, Lord, that you endow our new director with the wisdom and to balance the needs of the mission with the needs of his people. Allow him the patience he needs to resolve conflicts, promote teamwork, and carry on the great legacy of excellence here at the Emerging Technology Combined Task Force. In all this we ask in your most holy name, amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Harris. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce the 412th Operations Group Commander, Colonel Timothy J. Spaulding.
Thank you, LT. It is an amazing day in June. I'll point out it's June, despite the fact that it feels like November at the center of the aerospace testing universe. It's an honor to be a part of this kind of ceremony at any point, but especially in this place for this unit. I'll caveat right off the bat, I may use the word command occasionally when I discuss this, even though it's a change of directorship. That's a nuance that is important to us in the Air Force, but ultimately it's kind of not, because what we're doing is passing the torch of leadership, formal leadership, from one person to another. So the spirit's the same, even if the words are slightly differently used. Thanks to everybody who took the time out of their day to participate today. A special thanks to the public affairs folks that make this look seamless every single time and give us a record of the event protocol. Thank you, Mina, for making us feel comfortable in the events that we do, which I know is always your goal and always your accomplished aim. Lieutenant Buster, thank you so much. Carly, thank you so much for making this happen behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. Without either of you, this would not happen, and I know the commanders thank you as well. Chaplain Harris, it's a pleasure to meet you today, and thanks for sharing your words and giving us something bigger to think about today. And Ms. Bradshaw, I am not joking when I say that standing here in this hangar, looking at that flag and hearing that rendition of our national anthem is a memory I will carry with me. Thanks for your participation. Sir, thank you for joining us for another change in command. It's always great to see you, Chief. Thank you for being a teammate and here as well. Dory and you guys, thanks for being here. Jocelyn and Kalia and Bradley are not here today. I'll talk a little bit more about why that is and what that says about where we are and who we are, but I know that they wanted to be here if they could have been. So again, thanks to everybody for being here. So it's a change of directorship, right? And it's an opportunity for us to celebrate. We're going to celebrate these two guys, an outgoing and an inbound director, and then we're going to recognize the formal transmission of authority between the two. But we're also here to celebrate what it is that you guys do in the Emerging Tech CTF. So we're in this hangar I'm going to talk about it a little bit, even though if you're in the ETCTF, I'm sure George has already told you this at least 15 times in your time. But this is a really special place that we stand in today. We have a lot of history at Edwards. Sometimes you stand in places and you're like, I can't believe I'm standing here, but it's really not there. It's somewhere else. It's closer. But this is the place where the United States entered the jet age. In 1947, we didn't really have jet engines. The British did. We went over, and thanks to something called the Tizard Committee, in which we shared a special relationship with the British, we exchanged information and technology. They gave us the copy of their jet engine, which GE then produced and put into a P-59, like right here. The airplane flew out of here because this was away from the main base of Edwards, away from prying eyes on the edge of a lake bed that you see behind you, so that we could test that technology in secret. And it turns out that the P-59, I'll say it out loud, it kind of sucked as an airplane. But that's okay, right? Because it was the first step for us to go into the jet age, and it was a predecessor of all that came, and the outsized role that Edwards then played in the world from that time forward. So it's kind of fitting that 70 years later, it turns out that we put the Emerging Technologies CTF, your organization, in the exact same physical spaces. Because that's who you are too, right? Like, we're right on the edge of doing something new and fundamentally different. We're not really sure where it's going to go. And in fact, your mission is quite challenging because every other CTF on this base has a mission. They do something. The 411th and its CTF tests Raptors. The 418th and its CTF tests our global mobility platforms. The Emerging Technologies CTF has both a mission and a meta-mission. So today you test Suis, you test counter-Suis, you test now larger airplanes and autonomy on those systems. But that's not what you're going to do forever. That's what you're going to do now as you continue to pivot forward into the things that we don't know how to test and don't know how to deal with yet. We're not sure where that's going to be yet. It's going to probably involve urban air mobility at some point. It's certainly going to involve autonomy for a longer term. But it's awesome for all of you to be here and know that you're contributing not only to the mission today, but the definition of the mission going forward. It's unique, so you should celebrate yourselves. And I know that you do. So it's a celebration of you and your work, but it's also a celebration of these guys and a formal recognition of their responsibility exchange between them. Command is special because it has G-series orders behind it, but the directorship that is handed here, in my mind, is equally as special. And Trapp knows that I don't consider him to be anything but a commander, and that's the term I typically use for him. And those are the expectations I've had for him, that we have had for him, and that we're going to have for you as well, Clutch. We don't mess around in the Air Force about giving this responsibility. It's one of the most difficult gates to pass through as officers develop, because we understand that when we give that kind of responsibility to somebody, we can only hand it to somebody who's ready to pass it back to us with the full measure of their integrity and their service and their excellence. So sitting on the stage, sitting on the ground, the XP-59 hollow ground in front of you is somebody who clearly did that. Trapp was certainly somebody who gave integrity, service, and excellence. We've got an award that we're going to hand him publicly that's going to talk specifically about the things that he did. So I don't want to go there. I want to give a few more broad comments about Trapp and who he is. I think the first thing that we need to recognize about Trapp Bryce is that I think he has been at Edwards longer than any other military officer in the history of military officers. So I know we've talked about this, Trapp, but I was going through the record and I went back, and so you arrived, I think, in November of 2011. November of 2011, and you took a year off, right, to go to Maxwell, and then you came back, and now it's 2021, I think, still on the watch. So that's a decade. Clean decade of service to the community at Edwards Air Force Base. That's awesome, and that's a reason why Edwards has continued to excel in the test that it's done, is because you and your longevity here. I got to know Trapp best for his work in his previous job in the classified spaces in TMGS, and I've told him this before, but I'll tell him this now, that even though we were at odds occasionally on what we sought to do, I have not respected anybody in that position more than I did Travis Bryce, because he always did the right thing for all of the stakeholders that were involved, and he always did it with absolute integrity and transparency. Something that is, maybe should be common, but isn't. So thank you for that role. Here, though, there's one thing that really sticks out about his role at the ETCTF. And I'll say this word, and I'll see if the members of the ETCTF buy this. I'll just say rock solid, right? So rock solid is Trapp Bryce. And here's a couple examples of what rock solid means in a leadership role. The first has to do with what's happening right now. So I have it on inside information that Jocelyn would like to be here, that Kalia would like to be here, but they're not, because Kalia is in a hotel with your dogs. Jocelyn is at home with the movers, who have showed up now 5 days early and essentially were about this close to packing everything up that you own while you were here, such that when you went back to your house, it would be totally empty and ready to move out. Is that an accurate statement? Right, yeah, so does it look like that's happening in his life right now? Have you talked to him in the last couple days? Have you been like, oh my God, that guy is panicking about what is happening in his life? Absolutely not, because that's who he is. He sees what's in front of him, he deals with it, he moves on. So that's a small example here. My other example was that we were in Las Vegas a few weeks ago. We got a chance to do an offsite with the commanders, and we went out to dinner, big deal right at the time. It was like one of the first times you'd gone out to dinner, right? It was like kind of in the back of the restaurant. It was just the group. I was like, oh, this is so amazing, right? We're having a beer and eating Chinese food. And like, he's like just occasionally looking at his phone, but like sort of the kind of, that people do, looking at their phone. And so somebody's finally like, Trap, what are you up to, dude? He's like, oh, I'm got an offer on, 10 or 12 houses there in Florida that I'm working through. Like, what? He's like, yeah, we're just kind of negotiating right now about the final asking price and the money down. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. I'll just step out in just a second. I'll take care of it. So he does, like, comes back like 10 minutes later. He's like, yeah, we bought a house. Like, at dinner? Like that? He's like, yeah, like, you got to buy a house. And we just bought a house. Like, yeah, that's Trap. Absolutely rock solid. There's another example from the ETCTF, and I think the people that were there will know this is really the one that shows exactly what a leader is like when they're rock solid. The 5-GAT program was a bold move for the Air Force to move fast into an aerial target, a large airplane with a small vendor. And everyone says, go and try something and see what happens, and if you fail, that's fine, we'll fail forward and go. But the 5-GAT program, initial flight test, didn't succeed. It didn't succeed. And if you were there, I bet it felt like a full-blown crisis, right? Trap was there. And I got the call from Trap that day. I don't know how you got cell signal where you were. I think you were standing on top of like 8 people's shoulders to make that phone call. And cool as everything. Hey, boss, just want to let you know this is what happened. Airplane's not with us anymore. We're dealing with it. We're moving forward. Here are the 3 things that you need to know. I'll call you back in a couple hours. Just like that. Smooth, cool, in control. It was a crisis situation. He would have been well within his rights to call in a panic and say, oh my God, I don't know what to do. But that's not what he did. He said, we got it, we moved forward. And I know that the people that served on your team, Trap, valued that more than anything else in that moment of chaos and confusion. So thank you. I'm thrilled that Trap is not going very far from us, and that Trap is going out to Eglin to run the JATM program, which is going to be high pressure, high stakes, and I believe is going to lead him on to a full-up squadron command at Eglin, and if I have anything to do with it, it will. Sir, please back me up and help me on that one. It's important because squadron command is something that you will excel at well. I know this because your peer squadron commanders here have told me that. And although a lot of them are off running around doing other things today, they very much respected your work and know that you're ready for that role. One in particular just changed command, Hammer Helms, and I kid you not, he cannot be here because he's at kindergarten graduation, and we understand that. And I kid you not, he wanted you to have this on behalf of him. I'm not joking about I just deliver the news, I don't write it. Okay, Trap, thanks for everything that you did. Ed Edwards for a decade, and for this unit, and for the OG. Okay, to your new commander, Lieutenant Colonel Adam Clutch Brooks is an Aggie, I believe. Whoop. And you got another Aggie in the crowd, by the way, so you're there. He has a PhD, and he's an Aggie, and so there's like this long list of Aggie jokes that will come at some point. Not appropriate for today, but please start working on your Aggie jokes if you don't have them. He is uniquely qualified and ready to lead this organization, both in its mission and in its meta mission. As an engineer, he is tested all across the spectrum. He began his career doing targeting pods, IR work. You were a Rover guy back when Rover was brand new. If you don't know Rover, it was an amazing effort to get data from airplanes to JTACs in a way that really made a difference tactically over TV channels. It was basically like TV strapped to a jet. It was pretty awesome. He got into signal processing in ways that I think very few of us in this room would be able to converse with him or understand on the EW front. He went to the F-35 with Trap and ran the F-35 program in the heyday of its SDD when it really needed to make the transition from experimental to operational. And probably most uniquely of all, he deployed with the gear. As an engineer, that's very challenging to do. The Air Force doesn't give that opportunity very often. He got to go to mighty Kandahar, hang out with the Canadians and the Brits, and work the ground station element for Project Liberty. Project Liberty was probably one of the most impressive things the Air Force did to react quickly to a new situation, taking essentially dentists' C-12s, ripping out the mini fridges, putting in gear, and making that an ISR presence in the field. And the ground segment of that was right inside of Clutch's wheelhouse, and he got to go deploy with the gear. Kind of an amazing experience. And then he got to go get his PhD. So there's the Aggie PhD jokes that you guys I know are all writing right now. So is this guy ready to lead this organization as it pivots and continues to move into emerging technologies? Absolutely. And kind of more importantly, like everybody else in this CTF, and this is unique in the CTF, he wants to be here. I say that's mean to other CTFs. I don't mean it about other CTFs. What I mean is this attracts people who want to do this work. We're like, you know what? I want to get my hands on the airplanes. I want to get out of the lake bed. I really want to touch something and do something. And Brooksy, which is what I knew you as before I knew your name was Clutch, reached out to Naz Zavala with a question of like, hey, can I come out to the ETCTF because I want to be a part of this unit? That's not always how it works. And I think that's an important thing. We're excited to have you here, Clutch. We're excited for Brad as well. Brad's not here either because he's starting his new job in LA. So another, hey, man, we're in transition. We're getting the work done, but I know that you guys will get to meet him and get to know him in the future. So it's a celebration for these guys, for you and the ETCTF, and a formal recognition of the transition between these two leaders. So I think that's enough. LT, are we ready to go on with the actual transition? Let's do it. Okay, let's get started.
Thank you, Colonel Spaulding. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Colonel Spaulding will now present the Meritorious Service Medal to Lieutenant Colonel Bryce. Attention to orders. Lieutenant Colonel Travis R. Bryce distinguished himself in the performance of outstanding service to the United States Air Force as Director, Emerging Technologies Combined Task Force, 412th Operations Group, 412th Test Wing, Edwards Air Force Base, California. During this period, Lieutenant Colonel Bryce led his team through planning, execution, and reporting on multiple programs investigating new and emerging technological capabilities. These included several projects identified as joint urgent operational needs designed to defend the United States personnel against small remotely piloted vehicles. Results from these unique and detailed tests ensured that only the most effective and suitable defense systems were fielded and deployed in combat environments. Additionally, Colonel Bryce led the Air Force Test Center's pivot into autonomy testing, leading the way to develop secure and fail-safe ways to prove autonomous flight in open-air tests, including integration into large force test evaluations in congested and challenging airspace. Finally, he led the groundwork for the wing's involvement in Agility Prime, which enables the 412th Test Wing to further the development, testing, and use of autonomous vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Bryce reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. It is my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Travis R. Bryce, Director of the Emerging Technologies Combined Task Force.
All right, thank you, Ed, and thank you all for attending today. Man, what a beautiful morning it is for us to gather in this awesome hangar and welcome Clutch to the team. General Heiger, Mr. Osborne, Chief, Thank you all for being here and for the unwavering support the Test Wing has given to both me and the Emerging Technology CTF. We definitely appreciate it. Ms. Bradshaw, I'm not sure if she's still here. Oh, thank you very much. Wow, that was really amazing. I really appreciate you sharing your gift with us today. Carly, thanks for putting all this together. I think when I asked you to put this together, you hadn't even been to a change of command yet, and you really knocked it out of the park. Appreciate it. Scott, Ed, Tristan, Nick, thanks for helping set up today. We couldn't have done it without you. Ed, thanks for standing up here and narrating for us. Definitely appreciate it. Chaplain Harris, thank you for the invocation, and thanks for coming up and learning about what we do up here at ETCTF beforehand. To the Honor Guard, thank you for the amazing performance as always. To Mina, Alicia, the rest of your team, thanks for making sure we got all this right. To Media Fusion, thanks for being here and taking care of the video and the audio. Appreciate that. To my commanders, Colonel Spaulding, General Heiger, thank you for your trust and the privilege to lead such an incredible unit with such an important mission. I'll never forget it. Fellow commanders and directors, thank you for the privilege of serving alongside you. At every chance we had to sit together and share lessons and ideas, I was always humbled and appreciative of being able to learn from such amazing men and women. To Clutch and his family, congratulations and thank you. Thank you for raising your hand to come be a part of this amazing team and mission. We welcome you. Finally, to my family, who you all heard wanted to be here but couldn't, and you heard that they're at home dealing with yet another move and several unexpected changes, thank you. So I remember when I commissioned and we were heading to our first assignment together, we actually drove on the 58 by Edwards, and I was so excited to show Jocelyn the base I'd always dreamed to serve at. And her response was, "Hey, I see the sign, but where is it?" Kalia, you were only in 3rd grade when we first moved here, and I just had the privilege of watching you graduate high school. Little did you both know that we'd be spending so much time here as a part of this amazing team. You both made this place our home and are again getting ready to pack up and leave it. Thank you both for continuing to support me on this Air Force journey. To the Emerging Technology CTF, thank you for all you do each and every day for our country, for the Air Force, and ultimately for the warfighter. I took command a little more than a year ago, May 21st, 2020, right at the start of the worst pandemic our nation has seen in a long time, and you all showed me what it means to serve. It's really been an amazing ride. You are all tasked with such an important mission, testing our nation's emerging technology for the future of the warfighting force. I'm frequently asked, what does it mean to test emerging technology? It means figuring out new ways to experiment, new ways to test, ways to use a $5,000 hobbyist aircraft, figure out how to instrument it, determine its aero properties, and go use it as a test bed for autonomy and AI. It means figuring out how to actually test autonomy, helping build the Air Force Test Center strategy for it, and actually going out and doing it. In the 1 year I've been here, you all got the first flight on a brand new aircraft, built in a way that's just never been done in our nation's history. You've continued to directly support the warfighter, helping protect our warfighters overseas from enemies who wish to do them harm with small UAS, and helped advance the state-of-the-art in counter-UAS technology. You built the Air Force's first test team, looking at all those flying cars that we're reading about in the news every day. You've become an indispensable partner to some of the largest companies who are literally reinventing the way our nation's going to travel in the future. You helped demonstrate a UAS capable of flying for 10 days straight, and you've provided the capability that they could not find anywhere else in the country to go out and demo that. You've supported this base like few others and are always there in the background when anyone is looking for small US support. Finally, you've literally built the methods our nation is going to use to test autonomy programs of the future, and will soon add several more firsts to your list. I'm excited to see the first instance of autonomy in a large force test event here in just a couple weeks, and I know it's going to be an incredible event. It's definitely a bittersweet moment for me, leaving this incredible team and mission, but I know you all are in good hands with Clutch stepping in. So you heard that Clutch and I had the privilege of serving together way back in 2014, right in the midst of the F-35 SDD program, and I got to witness firsthand Clutch's cool, calm leadership in the craziest of times. I got to witness his technical prowess, solving some pretty complex problems on a complex system, and I got to make a good friend and a great person. So I know you're all in good hands. Team, you are in good hands with Clutch. And to Clutch, you have an incredible team here, and you're about to start on an exciting journey. I know I'll be reading all about this team's accomplishments over the next few years in the news, to include seeing a fleet of possibly 3 autonomy test beds and several electric aircraft operating right here at a North Base. Lead them well. Serving here at Edwards Air Force Base really has been the fulfillment of a lifelong dream of mine. My 8.5 years here have been full of some really awesome experiences, and I could think of no better way to cap off that time than serving here with you all at ETCTF. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Bryce. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed with the change of directorship ceremony. Please stand. Attention to orders. By order of Colonel Spaulding, Lieutenant Colonel Adam L. Brooks is hereby appointed as Director of the Emerging Technologies Combined Task Force, effective 11 June 2021.
Sir, I relinquish command.
Sir, I assume command.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Before we open the floor for Lieutenant Colonel Brooks, we will unveil his name on the Emerging Technologies CTF flagship. Ladies and gentlemen, the Director of the Emerging Technologies Combined Task Force, Lieutenant Colonel Adam L. Brooks.
Thank you, Ed. So I had about a 24-page speech prepared today, but luckily for all of you, I left it in the car, so you're not going to have to deal with that just yet. Don't worry, I'm relatively long-winded. You'll get your chance later on. General Heiger, Chief, thank you for being here today. Mr. Osborne, I very much appreciate you being here today. Definitely your mentorship over the years has been I'm very grateful for it. Same to you, Mr. Wada, thank you for being here today. It's a great treat seeing you today. Sir, thank you for the vote of confidence you have in bringing me out here. To say that this is exactly the job that I wanted is spot on, because the things that this place does is just what we were dreaming about doing at AR4L, and they get to do it here on a daily basis. So thank you for the vote of confidence, and frankly, all the effort that your team went through to get me out here. I know it was not a small feat. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Luckily for me, you won't be around long enough to regret it, so I appreciate that. But I won't let you down. TRAP, what can I say about TRAP? It seems, so what a lot of you may not know, TRAP was actually my upperclassman at test pilot school. So we actually have a long history of me having to try to fill his large shoes over time, falling in behind him at the JSF, and now falling in behind you now. So thank you for always blazing the trail for me. Thank you for always looking out for me. And I know you kind of treat me as kind of a little brother in flight test, and I very much have appreciated that. So thank you for your mentorship as well. Let's see, Dory, thank you so much for the warm welcome that you and your family have given to Brad and myself. We very much will cherish it. Good luck going forward. I know y'all are excited, and we're excited for you as well. Let's see, who have I missed? Carly, thank you so much for making it easy for the new guy coming out here. Honestly, this has been the easiest job I've had to, and it's no small thing to say this, the easiest job I've had to step into in my entire career, and it's really thanks to you and the effort that you've put into it, so thank you. To the protocol team, to the PA team, and to the color guard, to the chaplain, thank you all. Rachel, thank you for that outstanding rendition. I'm trying to think of anybody else that I've missed here. I think I've got all my thank yous in, and now I'll make my statement to the Hellcats themselves. So, a lot of times a new leader will stand up here and give their expectations for you. You know your job better than I do at this point, so we'll get into that later. What I'm going to give to you today is my expectations for me. My expectations for what I am going to provide to you in service to this CTF. So this is my promise to you. As you've mentioned, I went to Texas A&M, so how did I get through all that education? I had to oversimplify things. I had to boil things down to something that a guy from rural Texas could actually remember and act on. So these are the three things that I will promise to you that I will be doing while I'm here. I will be taking care of the people, I'll be taking care of the place, and I'll be taking care of the product. With all of your help, I think we're going to be able to do that pretty well. But if I ever stray from that path, people, the place, or the product, I expect every one of you to keep me accountable and make sure that we're all on the right path. So, without any further ado, let's eat some cake, shall we?
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Brooks. Lieutenant Colonel Brooks and Mr. Hills, the men and women of the Emerging Technologies Combined Task Force welcome you. In keeping with Air Force tradition, we conclude today's ceremony with the playing of the Air Force song. While it is customary for Air Force members to stand, we invite all of our guests to join us in standing for the Air Force song and the departure of the official party. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. You are now invited to join Lieutenant Colonel Brooks and Mr. Hills for a reception. However, we ask that you please remain in place for a brief moment until our distinguished guests have departed. Thank you for attending and have a great Air Force Day.